Good evening, everyone, and welcome back aboard for another bonus edition of A Strange New Pod. And if you're watching us live on Twitch tonight, please keep the comments and questions coming all night long. And if you're celebrating the Festival of Lights, we want to wish you a very happy first night of Hanukkah. I am your captain and host this week. Yeah. I am your captain and host this week, Julian Brown, alongside my trusty bridge crew, Rear Admiral Eric, who keeps our streams up and running on Subspace, Lieutenant Hawk, and the board queen of puns herself, Ensign Brittany. Ensign Aaron is currently in sickbay this week, being tended to by Dr. Colbert's abs, but we'll see her right back here next week.
I didn't even read that
They're
earlier.
pretty impressive.
They are pretty
impressive abs.
Well defined.
And if you notice that voice and on our view screen, we have a guest tonight. We're thrilled to be joined by Ian Lake this evening. Welcome and thanks for joining our crew.
Woo,
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
better late than never.
that's I've heard that a million times. Come on.
I'm
let's
sorry.
go,
Oh,
Brittany.
Brittany, you just got
Come on.
called out.
I didn't
Ooh,
plan
do
that
better,
one. I
Brittany.
just thought of it now.
Late puns I've heard my whole life because I'm not good at being on
Wow.
time.
Guess I'm beating the dead Orion.
Oh,
Shut up, Wesley.
I'm done.
Oh man.
No, you're
Ian played, Ian played the Orion Tolor in episode 6 of the current season of Star Trek Discovery before his ultimate and untimely demise in episode 8 at the hands of his auntie Osira. Ian, let's get right into it. Before
Sure.
you got the role of Tolor, were you a fan of Star Trek, the franchise, at all?
yeah, sure. I mean, I was never like a devoted faithful, but I've always been a lover of sci-fi stuff. And I used to watch the original series with my dad and stuff on the reruns. And I remember actually when I was a kid, my dad and I built a model of the original Enterprise. I loved that kind of shit. So, but I never got faithful. But my older brother, is he's a Trekkie, and he's born in '78. So like TNG, he was a teenager for that whole stretch. So he's the kind of guy that can name any episode of TNG that goes on. He's never as big into the other franchises, but so I've always appreciated Star Trek. And when, of course, I got the job, I was like vicariously really excited because my brother was like, holy shit, my brother's gonna be in an episode of Star Trek, so
Was he green with envy, though?
he absolutely was, but no, more green with pride.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'll take that.
Yeah.
Yeah, now we're sure it's not every day you get a casting call for Star Trek, let alone an Orion bad guy. Was this a role you came across and decided to audition for, and what was the process like?
I mean, well, the way it goes is my agent finds me auditions, and they send out, we're casting these roles, and he goes, oh, I think Ian will be right for this one, and he puts me out for it. And it is actually not that uncommon for me to get a Star Trek audition. I've actually auditioned for the show a lot and been close to getting cast many times. And you get put on hold or a short list or something like that, and you're like, maybe this one. And then add to that, I didn't know it was going to be an Orion. I didn't know I was going to be an Orion until I got there and did my first prosthetics test. So it's like it's all kind of hidden and cloaked when you do the audition. Even though I knew I was auditioning for Star Trek, I also knew that whatever was happening in the scene was not actually going to be in the script. The character was named Tolor in the audition, but that's about it. So the thing I was pleasantly surprised about was when I first got the script to see how much great stuff you got to do, because I said I agreed to the job without really knowing what the role was. You just say yes because it's Star Trek, and chances are it's going to be fun. And so, yeah, when I first read all those great scenes with Georgiou, I was like, oh, wow.
I feel like I got the best job.
Awesome.
I do. I mean, out of all the roles I've auditioned for on Star Trek, this one was clearly by far the meatiest and the most fun. Do
you mind if we ask who else you auditioned for before?
Yeah. So I don't know if I'm allowed to say this stuff, but sure. So I was actually close to, in season 2, there was an episode when they found like a frozen, the guy who initially was on the Shenzhou, and then they found him in space, and then he turned out to be like control, like embodied. I was on like a short list for that part, but then of course they made the choice to have that character be somebody that they had already introduced on the show, which actually I thought was a really smart choice. And that's actually my buddy who played that part. So Ali Momin is his name. What else? I can't remember what else. I honestly think in the beginning I might have been close to being some kind of bridge officer, but it was also secret that I couldn't tell what it might have been. So I remember like things I didn't get close to, like I auditioned for Jet Reno, like
nice.
like
Amazing.
randomly, like a lot of people, like in their initial like burst of it, and I didn't know what it was until I was watching season 2 and saw Tig Notaro, and I was like, okay, yeah, if they're hiring Tig, then I don't think they're gonna hire me.
Speaking of awesome personalities, right?
Yeah.
That's amazing. So the Orion makeup that you kind of talked about with your prosthetics, for Discovery, it's really unique because they don't just airbrush you green like a lot of people would think they would do for Orions.
No.
We saw a behind the scenes video where they were doing like a full face and neck mold for you. So we're wondering what's that experience like, and how long did you have to sit in the chair getting that done? Obviously not as long as Doug Jones.
No, although they have Doug Jones's routine down pretty quick. I think Doug and I were probably in the chair for about 3 hours each. Noah, who plays Rin, he's in the chair for like 5 hours. That whole look is a lot more involved. But no, it was about 3 hours for me, and with the wig is, and some days it's a new piece every time, right? It gets thrown out at the end of every day. So some days it'll just like fit right away, and then some days they'll put it on and be like, no, we have to like take this flap off and do it again, and it takes a little more time. But in general, it was like 3 hours. I didn't mind it. I honestly, like, the creative aspect of it was really fun and exciting for me, and obviously it was something that was only for a finite amount of time, so it wasn't like I had that exhaustion that comes from week after week after week that like who played Ariam had to go through, or that Doug has to go through, or like I think that's where it really gets hard, is like when it's over a long time. So, and I got along so well with the guys that work in the prosthetics truck. Like they're all such incredible artists and really great people, and so we just would chat. Like you show up at 4:30 in the morning, spend the first 3 hours of your day just shooting the shit, getting green silicone plastered to your face.
That's the dream.
Yeah, but I also really liked that they did silicone, because I might be on the minority on this. I feel like the jury's out on like, do we like the season 3 Orion look? I personally think it's great that they're using prosthetics to sort of heighten the features and make them more than humanoid, and that for me, it gave me like the sort of bully meat sack aspect of him was way easier to play because that meaty fucking face that I have. And I didn't want them to just paint my skin green. I don't think the green skin paint looks it looks kind of like basic to me. It looks like bare minimum to me, and
Like
and
what
I don't think
last week.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Basic ass Julie.
But it's like when I walked into the makeup trailer, this was a Emmy-winning prosthetics team that was laying their hands on me, and I don't think they were about to just paint my skin green. They were like, "No, let's make something." And I love how it turned. I thought the whole look was really great. I did not.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, they look like a denser kind of more, they're humanoid, but the prosthetics, they add a kind of a denser, more muscular look to them. Right?
Yeah, almost like they have thicker skin,
I was about to make that joke.
and
Like,
not in like a good way, but more like yeah, they're less penetrable. I don't know if that's a word.
No,
Yeah.
I think it
Can
is.
they be phased?
I was gonna say, you said that they're an Emmy-winning, makeup and artist team, and I feel like these makeups have come such a ridiculously long way. Because with that
incredible.
prosthetic, you're not being painted. That is a full prosthetic, and it still looked like you were able to emote just as much as you would be if you just had your face painted. I thought that was pretty amazing.
Yeah, I had a really enjoyable time working with it as a mask. Like I actually felt like it didn't limit me. It actually kind of like gave me something to play with, and like it had such character in the jawline and the cheekbones that I also like even just tilts and things I found really communicated, and like it was, I felt like I I didn't feel limited at all. You know, like you look at Doug, his whole mouth is covered. Are you lacking any emotion from Doug? No, he understands what gets communicated from the tilt of a head and the way he uses his eye movement and everything. And it's really a cool art form.
I feel like you can cover Doug with a brick wall and he'll still win an Oscar. You know what I mean? Like that man, you'll see one eyelash and you're just like,
it will be the most adorable and sad and creepy brick wall you've ever met, you know?
Yep, and I'd give my life for it. I'd be a lion if I said I wouldn't.
Although Doug was saying, why couldn't we just see your face? He was like, why did they have to cover you in silicone? I wish they could have all seen your face. I'm like, oh, that's very sweet, Doug.
Doug Jones is so sweet.
He is the sweetest.
So Tolor, he was a pretty nasty piece of work, and as a villain, we thought we might get to see a little bit more of him. Unfortunately, we don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what was it like getting to play around as a bad guy in Star Trek? And I think most importantly, what was your experience like working with Jonathan Frakes?
Oh yeah. Well, I'll answer the first part first. Yeah, it was so much fun getting. I play a lot of bad guys, but there was something about Tolor that was different from what I've done, which is that he was a bad guy who was not that good at being a bad guy, you know, and
yes,
all of his authority was not earned or like carried from any sort of like ability. It was just given by the threat of who his aunt was, you know, and then he was also really stupid. Like he's really stupid. And every time he sort of has any battle of wits, he's on the losing end. And there's fun and comedy in that. And they wrote more of that in the script than made it into the episode. I think in order to keep the stakes high, they cut some of the bits that were him being stupid in order to keep him still adversarial and still like a potential threat to Georgiou and Burnham, which I think story-wise is the smart play. But it was, you know, when we were creating it, like I had all these fun bits where I'm on the losing end of a battle of wits with Georgiou, and a lot of it did make it in, and so that was new, and that was like, I just felt really lucky. And we were out on location for the first 2 days, where that big it was a steel mill that we were shooting in, where they had the Hun House set. It was an unbelievable place to shoot, and it was just me and Sonequa and Michelle. Just the three of us, just shooting the shit for my first 2 days on set, just us. And like, how lucky can I possibly be? And then, yeah, working with Frakes was really cool. That was actually, you know, I mentioned how my brother is a big fan of the show. Like when I sent him a selfie of me in my green makeup with me and Frakes, my brother he kind of lost it. But also Frakes is just like, he is Star Trek, you know, like he comes on set and he's like, hello, you're welcome to my house, you know, like
I'm number one.
yeah, totally. We were shooting some stuff on Book's ship for 306 that Aaron Yakoski directed. I told this story on Marcy's podcast, but whatever, I'll tell it again. And Frakes came by, and I had just learned that I was gonna die in the next episode.
Oh man,
because I didn't know what was happening with Tolor. You know, my suspicion based on how that episode went was that maybe an early draft of the script had him dying in that fight with Burnham and Giorgio.
It looked like it was gonna go that way.
Oh yeah, like the fact that I'm just like beep, 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 bye, you know, like like that's just such a nice out. And so I could tell by that the writers were still figuring out what they were going to do with Tolor. And actually I was being held for multiple episodes so that they had room to decide. And I was really hopeful that like it would continue, because I was having the most fun I've ever had in my life. And it's a funny story. This is the long version of it, but I was sitting talking, just me and Sonequa were like sitting, waiting to go shoot a scene. And she's like, so what's going on with your character? I said, I don't know. I'm on hold for 306 and 308 and we'll see what happens. And she's like, well, I just got the script for 308 and you're the first line of the script. And I was like, oh my God, give me that. And so initially the scene with Tolor and Osira was the opening sequence of the episode when they're like in early drafts of the script. Before they introduced the ship's mission first and then went and cut to them, which again, when I watch it, I'm like, yep, that makes perfect sense. Raise the stakes and then throw it to them. And like, I read this scene, I'm like, oh my God, this is great. And Osira, and like, it was a longer scene and there was a more comedy in it. I'm like, awesome. And then he gets teleported into the cage and it gets like, what happens in the cage? Oh, he gets okay, he's dead. All right, okay, he dies. And like, then you go to shoot your next scene knowing that you're about to get killed off in a few days. And Frakes was there on set. And I had never met him. And he's like just hanging out, even though it's not his episode to direct. And he's saying hi to everybody. He's like, hey, nice to meet you. We're going to kill you in a couple of weeks. I'm like, yeah, I just found out. Thanks. Nice to meet you too. But working with him on the actual scene was great. The fact that my death scene and that scene with Osira, that was my time working with Frakes. That was special. And like, we had so much fun shooting the death. We shot way more than they showed. We shot stuff where they went like straight down my mouth while I'm screaming. And
like the Matrix sort of like.
Yeah, like initially when I got teleported in there, I like fell over on the ground and was like, took way longer to orient myself. Like it was really just Tolor being a mess. And that was
the more the better.
Yeah, and him just yelling at me from off camera, being like, "And now scream!" and like, yeah.
Oh man, I could just imagine him saying something like that really loud in such a Frakes way. That's hilarious. I have to go off subject here real quick because we have our Twitch viewers and they are all curious and saying hello to your dog. Who is your awesome pup and what is his or her name?
This is Stevie. She's a she, and she's my rescue, and she's trying to sleep, but she's missing a leg, and she's pretty damn awesome. And she says hi, everybody.
Hi, Stevie.
Stevie.
I actually wanted to bring her to set with me when I was working on the show, but I was worried that she wouldn't know what to do with the fact that like I have my voice, but I like I think it would have freaked her out.
Yeah.
If I put a hoodie on, my dogs don't even recognize me.
Eric, I know that you had another question that we didn't have on our outline.
Yeah, I'll do it now. So Star Trek is known for having amazing Shakespearean actors on their show, and if anyone has seen your Stratford performance as Macbeth from the 2016 production, which is one of my favorite, and I got to see it live, and it was amazing. And it's one of my posters that I have in my room here that I didn't want to just show you because that would have been awkward. But
now he's making it awkward.
But now I'm making it awkward.
So, no, it's not awkward.
I love it.
So Renee Auberjonois, who played Odo on DS9, said actors with a background in the larger-than-life works of Shakespeare or even musical comedy adapt easily to non-real characters and bring a sense of truth to them. What do you think of that, like bringing Shakespeare to Star Trek?
Honestly, it felt like home. Like especially because like when I was doing Shakespeare at Stratford, which for those viewers who don't know, Eric lives near a town called Stratford, which is one of the biggest theaters in North America, where they do a lot of classical theater and they put on this big festival every year. It's exceptional theater. They do it at the highest level. And I had the great privilege of working there for about 7 years.
Wow.
And a lot of it is creating a world, because so often you put on this play and you can set it anywhere. And even if you set it in modern day, you're still creating a world because of the way people speak and the way people carry themselves. And you're often like, you're in the basement with in a fitting room, and there's a designer and a cutter, and they're building a costume for you, and you're part of this whole process where they're pinning things to you and talking about and then you have to have a voice about, well, my character moves like this and I have to be able to move that way. And that doesn't really usually happen in TV. Usually in TV, you go put on some jeans and a hoodie and you say some cop speak or some like, I didn't do it, I'm the bad guy speak. And there's not that same process. And on Trek, it exists. And it's so exciting because I got to show up like a week before I shot anything and collaborate. Like Gersha Phillips, who's the costume designer, holy shit. Does that woman have taste and an eye and just like her work on this show in particular is stunning. So they built me this thing and I got to be a part of that with the cutter and the designer saying, well, what if we tucked this here? And Ian, what's your movement going to be like? And it just felt familiar to me. It felt like that. And then also wearing a weird costume that's not normal clothes and saying language that is heightened and not the way we normally speak, but still making it seem natural, making it seem like a person thinking and going about their life. Like that's what the task is when you put on a Shakespeare play. So yeah, I felt really comfortable, strangely, in this wide world. And it made sense to me why so many great Shakespearean actors have been in the Star Trek. I mean, some of the biggest ones have been, you know, their biggest success was on Trek. Yeah. And William Shatner started his career at Stratford too. So there you go. Not to mention, when I first did my prosthetics test, they said, "Oh, you can actually enunciate," because a lot of people, you're wearing lips on your lips, so a lot of people end up and like, you know, getting trained to speak and articulate Shakespeare, like that comes in handy when all of a sudden you're wearing extra lips on your face, you know? So
yeah.
I
think this is actually a great segue into our next question here about, you know, kind of like getting into character and making them your own. There's been some talk on Twitter that Tolor maybe seemed a bit more menacing than Anti-Osira. If you could imagine your character still being around and, you know, not eaten by a transform, do you think he maybe could have overthrown Osira? Do you think he maybe wanted that place at the head of the table?
You know what I would love? It would have been like if she like failed in killing him and then he kind of like went and teamed up with like Federation and like took her down, you know, but like still was like pissed off and not nice, still was like, I'm still mean, but I will help you, you know, like and like I will be benevolent, but I'm still a bad dude.
Sounds like a Shakespeare play. What a Shakespeare answer.
Yeah. I think it's funny that he was more menacing because I just think he's more of a blowhard, you know, like he just tries harder, whereas she doesn't need to because she's like, I have this weird ring that will just kill anybody, you know, like whatever that ring does.
You were mentioning though that, you know, Toller's a little bit dumb, right? He's kind of got that, like that blind bad, like dumb bad guy luck, and that can sometimes get bad guys in TV and film into higher positions of power than they maybe are supposed to.
Yeah, just a bit of nepotism and a bit of idiocy, and you've got a perfect cocktail.
Yeah, exactly.
A little pinch of both. Yeah,
exactly. Finally, Ian, where can people find you as we wrap up our interview here? Any upcoming projects that you'd like to share with us?
On my Instagram is Ian H. Lake. If you want to find, if that's what find you means, that's my Twitter is Ian Lake. I have actually, you know what? I just got a new job a couple of days ago that I'm excited about, but not at liberty to talk about yet.
Always the case.
But I will, you know, make sure I keep fans posted when there is talkable things to say about. I'm sure at some point it'll be something I can say I'm a part of, but I don't want to step in it before I've actually signed my contract just yet, you know.
We will be. Go ahead, Eric.
I have two little things.
Okay.
One, why did you change Sir Ian of the Lake from your Twitter, which was amazing? Back in the day, and I promised Aaron, our co-host who isn't here today, to show you something because you asked me what one of my favorite things in this crazy room that I have is, and my favorite thing in my house is a picture that I printed, and it's upstairs on my top floor, and it's a memory I had doing. You'll see Once right here, and there was an event in Toronto where they tried to get 100 guitars. And it was,
you were there?
And it ended up being 900 guitars.
You were there?
And I was there. And I took an amazing photo because I was one of the first people. So I was near the front. But at the end of the show, because my family was really young, my wife was there and my baby was there, and it was the only baby that was allowed in the theater. They were like, as long as the baby doesn't cry, she can stay. And there's this picture of us that
No
we're
way!
meeting, and yeah, so that's probably one of our best memories. And she used to dance to your music all the time.
Wait, is that Ian?
That was Ian, yeah.
That's
Oh,
me.
that's
I
really
had hair. Yeah.
Yeah, so
That's amazing. I mean, and I will say that day is a special day for me, man. Like that experience from my end too was pretty breathtaking and special and rare. And like I actually, funny side note, they asked me to do this thing where I lead 100 people in guitar singing one song, and my first reaction was, that's gonna be a fucking nightmare trying to get 100 people to play a song.
Yep.
And then they were like, there's more and there's more. And I was really pessimistic and was like, this is going to be a nightmare. I don't even want to do this. It's going to be such a shit show. And 940 some odd people showed up and sang in perfect unison and played in perfection. And it was like standing on stage being like rocked by like the most incredible thing. And that I was like, ugh, I got to do this thing for, you know. Amazing, Eric. That's really cool. That's an amazing story, man. Thank you for sharing. What a full circle moment. So when you saw who it was, what the fuck was your reaction when you were like, who's this Tolor guy?
Well, I recognized your voice, but I didn't recognize you. Like because I'd seen you on like Working Moms and other TV shows, and I'm like, oh, Ian Lake again. And then I saw your name in there. I was like, oh, who's Tolor again? Oh yeah, damn. And yeah, I did not recognize you at all. That was
very
crazy.
cool. Very cool.
The two looks are completely different. I mean, I would never know that you were Tolor. So yeah.
Yep.
Ian, that about does it. We want to thank you so much for coming on our show and taking some time to speak with us. We had an absolute blast.
Super fun, you guys. Thanks for having me on. I enjoyed it.
You're very welcome, and we'll be waiting anxiously for your next project. So
I am too.
We can't wait. We are going to take a quick break to rearrange our stream here, and when we come back, we'll have our episode 9 review of Star Trek Discovery Season 3, Terra Firma, Part 1. Stick around.
Woot woot. All right. See you guys.
Welcome back to A Strange New Pod. We hope everyone on Twitch and our collective enjoyed our interview with Ian Lake. He was awesome. That was an absolute blast to have him on. So, Ian, if you're still watching by chance, thank you for joining us. That was a lot of fun. I'm going to make a quick apology because we were talking about this while we were on our quick break there. I'm wearing a Star Wars shirt on our Star Trek pod tonight, but there was so much Star Wars news today that I felt like I didn't have a choice.
Julian, so, I've been wearing so many Star Wars shirts on this show that no one has noticed.
Yeah. There's half the time you're wearing a Star Wars hat and we're about to record and you go, oh shit, and then switch to a different
That's
hat.
way too apparent. Like it's a giant Star Wars logo.
Yeah.
But like, I think I'm the biggest outlier right now. I'm wearing a Twin Peaks t-shirt, so.
Hey,
but it makes sense, sort of.
It does. Someone actually made a really funny joke on Twitter about, 28 weeks of Star Trek, and then it was TrekCore, 28 weeks of Star Trek, and then Disney just announces 10 new Star Wars shows to top it.
What a day of announcements! Holy crap!
It's like my finger hurts from reposting all the news on our other podcast page.
Yeah,
it was like boom, 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 boom.
But
I didn't even.
This isn't an Ahsoka Tano podcast. Sorry.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Nope.
Oh, God.
This is a Star Trek podcast, and we are talking about episode 9, Terra Firma, Part 1. Who wants to read our synopsis this week?
I can do that. So, the USS Discovery crew journey to a mysterious planet in hopes of finding a cure for Georgiou's deteriorating condition. Stamets and Adira make a stunning breakthrough with the newly acquired burn data.
Before we go into this, did everyone know this was a mirror episode except for me? Okay. Because everyone was like, oh, yeah, obviously it was a mirror episode. I was like, I feel silly.
Wait.
Well, no, like...
What, do you mean like after watching it, you didn't know it was a mirror universe?
Before. Like, people say they were expecting that. I'm like, I would not have expected that in a million years. No.
But, I mean, we were talking about how they had to tackle Georgiou's stuff.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they had to tackle Georgiou's stuff, but you wouldn't think that they would do another. I mean, that's a lot of, I think it's a lot of work to go back into the mirror universe and do all that. That's just me.
I thought the same thing. to be honest.
I thought we
expect that.
theorized that was a possibility, though, in a past episode.
I didn't think they'd go
Or-
back in time in the mirror universe.
Well, we
I
just
thought
meant that,
they'd go-
eventually they'd have to, bring her back to the mirror universe. Like, that might be something that could happen in the show. And we were like, yeah, it might happen later this season. It might have been, 5 episodes ago we talked about it, though.
It's getting a little bit ahead what we're going to talk about, but I feel like we have to talk about it now because it's been brought up 3 different times on Twitch. Engineer 21 says, was that a Q with the cure?
I said that. I was like, Q.
Stop stealing my jokes.
And Jay Crabsap says Carl has to be a Q. So let's just get that out of the way before we do anything else. Is Carl Q?
Yes.
First of all, it's Carl with a Q.
Oh, yes. That would be amazing.
I hope it is.
ARL?
Q-U-A-R-L?
Q-A-R-L. Carl.
Carl.
Oh my god. But yeah, he gave off major Q vibes, and you know what sucks? Actually, I love. While watching this episode, you know how we always watch Star Trek and we're like, if I was in Star Trek, I'd be this sort of character or whatever, and I'd always hope that I'm someone like a Michael Burnham. No, I'm a fucking Carl. The puns he made before that door, the weird personality, I was just like, oh god, I'm Carl.
You totally
He's
are.
like, it's adorable, and I was like,
Britney
the
vibes.
joke I made about Adira.
Yeah.
I was like, adorable.
I don't necessarily think he's a Q in that because given the breadth of Star Trek and that, it's not the first time they've ever encountered some sort of an omnipotent being in that. It's like he for all intents and purposes he could be some sort of a Trelane.
But there's the long running theory that Trelane is a Q.
See, I'm not privy to that theory, so
Yeah, that's been around for a long time. That Trelane is actually a Q.
One thing's for certain. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No. Go ahead, Brittany. I know you're about to make a pun, so hit it.
One thing's for certain.
Warp time, motherfucker.
Warp time, motherfucker. Doug Jones, hold on. Doug Jones loves that I say that. Every time I tweet about it, he likes it. And I'm like, he wants to sit in the captain's chair and say warp time, motherfucker.
And on the outtakes, he has said it.
Probably.
Yeah.
So back to my horrible pun that you won't excuse, and now I'm really stalling, so it's going to be bad. You know that they were in queue for that door. Because they were waiting.
Get off my bridge.
Just like the pun, you were waiting
Get
for
off
it.
my bridge. Get off my bridge.
You're not off my bridge
You know what, audience? I was really bottling up a lot of my puns to let Ian talk without me interrupting. So the floodgates are open.
To be fair, when he showed up and I was like, oh, this is definitely a Q, and then the door opened, I fully expected her to walk through and nothing happened because that's a Q thing to do.
That would be a total.
Yeah, to be like, there's a door in the middle of the fucking snow. It doesn't take you anywhere.
Yeah.
This isn't Frozen.
I think Carl is a Q. I think it works perfectly. I don't think it's like stepping on the fan base's toes or being too cute with canon. I think it's a good moment to have a Q and a Q doing maybe something good for a change and not totally menacing. I liked Carl. I like that it's the dude from CSI, whose name I don't know off the top of my head. I absolutely love him. We'll find out, right? I know Rob Digi said he's going to be contrary and say no, he's something new. And that he's a Metron. I don't understand the reference, but maybe you guys do.
I like that you said it was
QS.
cute.
Oh yeah.
I made a Q with my hands.
Yeah.
Did I go the wrong way?
Let's get into the A plot this week, which was obviously Georgiou's race against temporal and dimensional dysphagia, and her and Michael's encounter with the entity, who seems to be giving off some very similar vibes, like we just talked about from Trek's past. First, what do we think about the reveal of that stranger? And two, Philippa's journey seemingly back in time to the mirror universe. All hail Emperor Georgiou. Long live the Empire.
I love sorry Brittany. I love that if this is the way they introduce the Q species back into the series, it's the perfect way. It's not in a goofy way, and it's a very serious it's a playful way, but not the goofy Q that we know. And I like that it's a more serious version of him. Or them.
I have some questions about it. But overall, I think we were Georgiou'd a Philippa episode. So I was pleasantly surprised when it turned out to be Georgiou-centric.
Okay.
I love, yeah. This was a very good A plot, and that it was so weird. It was such a weird one for this episode because, like, the second half of the episode completely took over with it. We didn't go back to see anything else, and that, and I think I mentioned before, but like I love the way it mirrored like Michael's experience when she went over into the mirror universe, and that being a stranger in a strange land. Now it was Georgiou who was different from everybody else around her.
She played that so well, right, Hawk? She played so well, not being this ruthless aggressive who would just like kill a Kelpian in a heartbeat for talking back, to playing this reserved, oh shit, maybe I'm not the same person anymore. I thought she did it brilliantly while also being able to adapt to being back into those surroundings that she's not used to anymore, and still be that badass Emperor Georgiou that, like, let's face it, like that's still her, just maybe a little bit tamed down. I thought she killed it this episode.
She knew exactly how much of her old self to be while she was in there, but at the same time, like, her experiences have definitely changed her in that. Seeing Saru across the room and just that look on her face, it was that was great.
Yeah, she showed up and she was like, Michelle, oh shit, I got a Helpian and a Kelpian.
Gloria Serafa says, I thought she'd go back 930 years in the future, not the past, which is interesting.
That'd be wild.
That would be very wild. And then, and I think Engineered also said maybe once for the signal reveal. They did go back once, Hawk, I think, and that was it. And I kind of thought it seemed a little bit out of place, which we'll talk about. The other thing I want to talk about with the A plot is Michael's entrance when they're in kind of the lounge area, and then Michael just walks in like a boss. It was really cool seeing Sonequa in a very different element, playing a truly evil version of the character. What did we think about Mirror Michael? Real Mirror Michael.
She was so
I love
good.
Mirror Michael.
So good.
Especially the part where she admits to like being part of the coup, and she like does that laugh, and she's just like, and I'd do it again. And you're like, oh man, Sonequa is coming for your goddamn head.
Yeah.
With her teeth and her mouth too, just
and
like,
her eyes,
she's just like,
right? Oh, so
like
good.
crazy, full on crazy eyes, like going on. You know what I love about the fact that they're doing the Mirrorverse in this season is that this season had so much characterization, and like we actually legitimately have seen all the characters. We know our bridge crew, like we know who they are to us and our universe. And now to actually see them like on the flip side, to see that sort of like deviation that we know from the characters we love was really awesome. Because season 1 they did it, but they did it before we really knew a lot of the characters. Like we cared about Michael, and then we learned about Georgiou, and we knew she was different than Philippa, but like at the same time, I feel like this season it really sold the fact that it's like this is the mirror universe, like these are the stakes. Like I felt that more than in season 1, I think.
Yeah, like in this episode, we're seeing Reese and Owo fighting and having a fight to the death in the hallway, and they wanted it.
even the characters we didn't hear talk, like Culver was amazing. Just with everything he did in that lunch room area, and Stamets only got to do that soliloquy, but he was amazing the whole time.
That was still great.
Like seeing him like being like a stage actor.
Yeah.
I
was thinking the same thing. I'm just like, theater nerd, pop out. Let's go.
It was brilliant. This episode was special for 2 other reasons too. We got to see the return of Hannah Cheeseman, who played Iriam. We got to see her Mirror Universe, just human counterpart. And also Rika Sharma returned as, which I was confused about because she looked a little bit different. I think they did the style different. And we know that she's with Lorca's crew, which is what threw me off a little bit. Like, why was she on Discovery when she was part of Lorca's coup attempt?
I assume she was with Burnham to start whatever was happening.
Yeah, see, and that's what I put together later. But it was cool seeing them. Like Brittany and you guys said, like it was just cool seeing them all as their mirror universe selves again. Like you just love that.
Yeah, like the eyeliner.
Kelly
was great.
So good.
And the eyeliner and the costumes, like it felt like I just loved the costumes and everything they did for the Mirror Universe. So it was so cool to see them use it again. Because you're hoping, you're like, oh, the gold uniforms, like that crazy Empire stuff is so cool looking. Like you want to see it. And it looks like the crew legitimately has a blast when they do these episodes.
Yeah.
Like that they love their characters. But also it's like, okay, I get to play evil me now. This is so much fun. I'm going to come completely unhinged. Like, went straight up KO.
Yeah.
Like, it was amazing. She was like, bop, bop, bop. And I was like, Go, oh, go.
I was going to mention it near the end of the show when we do final thoughts, but I'll just mention it now. And Ian mentioned her earlier. Just an absolute genius, Gersha Phillips, who's the costume designer for Discovery, and I'm sure her makeup team. I mean, this episode was just out of this world. I mean, if you take the time to look at all of their eye makeup, Michael's makeup, Owo's makeup, even Georgiou's makeup, making her look different than she is just when she's on Discovery. That headpiece, holy
Oh
shit.
yeah, Louis the 14th. Who?
So-
She's the goddamn sun god. Let me tell you what.
It
Sun
was
queen.
just the costume and the makeup were just on point. I feel like they've just killed it this entire season so far.
It makes me want to see what current time Mirror Universe would look like the evolution, because she'd do something wild.
Yeah,
It'd probably be very chrome, like actual mirror.
a lot of people
know,
on our Twitch, Jay Krabs, have saying Lorca has to be in the next episode because
my
he was
God.
name dropped like 8 different times. He better
Yeah.
be in the next
He
fucking
better
episode.
be.
I'm waiting for my Jason Isaacs fix.
He better be wearing eyeliner too, or
Yeah.
else it's a waste.
Everybody gets eyeliner in the Mirror Universe.
And then there's Mirror Pike there as well. It'd just be just beautiful people there everywhere.
Where's my evil horse? Bring me my mount, said Anson.
Pike's evil version is called Spike.
Does he have bleached blonde hair?
You know what I mean?
Oh my
Number 1
God.
is number 2. Yeah, go ahead.
No.
I was just gonna say another thing I liked, going along with Michelle Yeoh's acting, which we already know she's a powerhouse. She's
Oh,
an
God,
incredible
yes.
actress, has been for decades. And it's so good to see her have an episode that she carries fully, because she carries so many scenes by herself, and to have this focus on her. One of my favorite moments was we know that she's gonna help Saru because she has a newfound sort of respect for him. So when she kind of speaks up and is like, no, I'm gonna take this specific Kelpian from you, he's gonna be my slave again or whatever. In my mind, I was thinking she was like, "You're gonna be sorry for touching my Saru.
Yeah.
I will kill you. I will slice a bitch." For this."
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
To add on to that, her acting in that goodbye scene with Tilly and Saru was so
Yes.
good. It's just Michelle Yeoh's amazing. She's a gem.
That's perfectly into what I was about to say. Jay Krabsap said that Michelle Yeoh is another national treasure. For
An
sure.
international
Nicolas Cage.
treasure.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, baby. Rob
Look at her
Goodbean
right
also
here.
says the way they framed that shot with the Sharon in the middle of her crown when she was on stage was just out of this world.
Mhm.
Beautiful.
That was gorgeous. I actually paused my screen and thought about screenshotting it, but I'm like, I can just look it up on the internet later. But I was like, this is stunning.
Oh, don't worry. I made a GIF.
Because I was going to make that my background, but then we had the wonderful Ian Lake on. So I was like, let's put my little Orion. But
Yeah.
my faves.
Engineer 21 said, going to what Rob said, the cinematography this episode was 100%.
so good.
Let's get to the B plot, which I got to say, in all honesty, seemed a little bit forced this week. Hold on. Sorry, guys. Kid in the background. Gonna do that again.
We can't hear your kid.
Yeah.
It'll come up. It'll come up later though in
Ah.
the recording. I know it will because it has before. All right, let me do that again. Let's get into the B plot, which, in my opinion, and maybe you guys agree, disagree, seemed a little bit forced this week. Just because we spent 95% of the episode in the Mirror Universe, and that was the revelation that the Kelpians were. I guess it wasn't actually a Federation ship; it was a Kelpian ship because she called it the KFS, not the USS.
But I wonder if different designations for different,
maybe that's something they do now. It's interesting either way, but it was Kelpians aboard that Federation starship in the nebula sending out that distress signal. We obviously get a very strong reaction from Saru here, and rightfully so, because that Kelpian sounds and looks exactly like his sister. I think it's even the same actress, if I'm not mistaken. What are your guys' thoughts on this? Because there's also that theory that I think we maybe talked about near the beginning of the season, that maybe the Kelpians are responsible for the burn. That would be a twist. It's characters that we've known to be good guys and are now maybe not.
One, KFS stands for Kelpian fucking Space Force, so jot that down. Two, I do feel like they probably didn't need to add the B plot so much this episode, but they always do have an A and B. I feel like it'll make sense maybe when we see the second half, and altogether the 2 episodes will be a better A and B plot.
Yeah.
Plot kind of interwound, but it was already a shorter episode than it usually is. And like so much, you wanted to see more of the mirror universe and focus on that plot that you're just like, yeah, whatever, Data, Burn, yeah, we know that. We'll get back to it. Like I even didn't care. I was just like, yeah, cool, whatever, get back to Philippa.
Yeah, it looks like they're really pushing the Kelpians being important in the current timeline and in the mirror timeline. Like
They better be.
Saru being her personal spy, and I guess based on the trailer for next week, fighting for her. Just it looks like
he wrecks Culber.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Those abs
Yeah.
go straight through a wall. Not through a table, I think, right? He's like slams them down.
Yeah, the B plot felt a little bit pushed on us this week. I know like every episode so far has dropped like a tiny piece of information about the burn and that, so that that kind of fit in with the theme this season. And that even given that though, like seeing like Saru and that, like the transmission from the Kelpians was great, and it really kind of puts a lot of things into perspective in that. I mean, considering like it was only last season that like the Kelpians were still cattle for another race in that, and through Saru and Discovery's intervention in that, the species was freed, but consequences to it. Every action has a consequence. And
that's a very good point, Hawk. That's a very good point, because you think about maybe the Kelpians ended up, even though they joined the Federation, are maybe a bit more hostile now that they, are, I guess, the apex predator of their planet again.
Sorry, go for it.
I was just gonna say, Doug Jones didn't do all that in season 2 for them not to have Kelpians show up at some point in the future.
Yeah.
We were waiting for it.
So when we saw Saru talking to his crew about the Kelpians there seemed to be sort of this he sort of seemed, I don't want to say overeager, but he seemed to be rushing into things. At least that's what it felt like in my mind. Do you think we're going to be seeing, because he's still a green captain, do you think we're going to see him making mistakes because it is his people?
Yes. 100%. And I'm going to keep up with my running theory this season. This episode, I feel like, established even more that Burnham might end up as captain at the end of the season, because she questioned Saru again and Vance sided with her, and she was very much like more of the calm commander in that than Saru was in that scene. I think this is showing Saru in a very vulnerable position as captain, where it's hard for him to maybe like put some personal feelings aside and still not have some of that Kelpian reservation, if that makes sense.
So trouble is brewing.
Oh, Jesus.
Also, Kelpians were on a reservation, if you don't remember.
Yes, they were.
So it's normal for Kelpians to have reservations.
Engineer 21 has a question/theory. Were her forehead spots just due to the radiation or something else?
It could be bunnies.
It could be
Bunnies.
Bunnies.
God, we're all such fucking nerds.
We've all seen the Buffy musical.
Once more with feeling. The fact that we both sang it and just didn't even pause. Oh, man.
No pause.
I'm glad you guys had that reaction, because I was hoping to not have to explain it.
Yep. Good on you, Eric. Well, obviously, I think Hockey said it. We'll get into this, I think, a little bit more in next week's episode. Let's head back to the mirror universe. Georgiou obviously has knowledge of the events that are unfolding around her as she tried to, sway Michael away from betraying her, because she knows what happens being in the future and all that. And, Disco coming back to thwart her and then taking her temporal mechanics and all that jazz. She also knows that Lorca isn't too far off from trying to overthrow her. Where are we right now? Like in her mind? Where are we with this?
I have a theory. I think it is a Q simulation, like when Picard went back in time and had to be the young version of himself. I feel like this
Tapestry, right?
Yeah, Tapestry. I feel like this is going to be her Tapestry.
I hate that you began that with "I have a theory," because my mind immediately
Have a
went to it might
theory.
be Buffy.
It could be Bonnie.
I'm sorry, our whole chat, they actually don't understand what's happening when we did that, so I just said it's a Buffy the Vampire Slayer reference. Like, you can't even explain that. You just have to watch the episode.
It's the 7th season, right?
It's the musical
6 or 7.
episode.
Yes, the musical episode. 6th season.
Yeah,
7?
No, 6th season. No, that's Willow's.
I think
Dark
it's
Arc.
7. I think it's because 8 is the last one, right? It doesn't
7's
matter.
the last
Look it
one.
up on the internet.
Whatever.
Engineer's loving the Buffy references, so we're good. Yeah, Eric, I'm with you. Q simulation. I think it's. I mean, if you know TNG and you know that episode, it seems very evident that that's what this is. Listen, we could be dead wrong when we find out next week. I like the theory.
And if
Just-
you are wrong, you're making a huge mistake.
Mm-hmm.
I will agree that the B plot was more like a B flat, though. You know.
Yeah.
Womp, womp, womp.
Yeah.
Possible Q simulation. I'm not sure at this point in that because why would the Q help? You know.
Maybe they turned over a new leaf, man.
They always help though, right?
They have some good qualities now.
I'm easily amused tonight. Q's, the time means nothing to them. Maybe they need more soldiers for another civil fucking war. I don't know, man. But either way, I think it's fine if it ends up being a Q simulation or if it actually is mirror universe. Either way, I'm fine with it. I don't think I'll be bummed about one or the other.
Well, we will see next week, and I'm going to give you guys our quick hot take question. Will we see Lorca next week? Yes or no answer, Hawk.
Yes.
Brittany.
We better.
That's 2 words.
Whatever, yes.
Eric.
We.
Damn you.
Probs.
Yes, and
that's what I should have said.
Rob Digby says yes, Lorca as well.
That's 2 words.
Yep, that is 2 words. You're right. Any final thoughts? I just did definitely want to say, whether it's in the mirror universe or the prime timeline, Discovery knows to throw a hell of a party. We had like the rave in the first season, then like this with Bryce. Like, was it Bryce or throwing the knife at the pumpkin on Nielsen's head? Like, there's
William Telly routine.
Yeah, exactly. I love the disco parties. It was a disco.
I liked the coronation. I
was.
thought that was cool, even though that was mirror universe. So cool.
Also, we haven't talked about this yet, and this is a pretty big deal. The time officer or the time, that guy,
Temporal agent, right?
Temporal agents.
That was so
came
awesome.
from the Kelvin universe.
That was so awesome.
They name drop. I'm like, damn it, Kurtzman. You managed to bridge these shows and movies in the most natural, unfucked up, fan servicey way. I tip my hat. I give you a round of applause.
We tip our pips to you.
You don't need to see
a tip pip. A tip.
You don't need to see anything. You don't need to see anything on a view screen.
No.
All you need to say is a Romulan mining ship temporal incursion, and that's all you need.
And it's all canon. It's all connected.
Oh, so good.
It. I know you.
And then we already did this, but once again, just a big shout out to costumes and makeup department for this episode. It was absolutely just out of this world.
Engine Nerd said, "Tip pip hooray!"
Tip, tip, hooray.
T-shirt.
I love it.
We're not going to do a rating this week because it's a 2-parter, and I just don't think that that's fair. We'll rate it all as 2 parts next week. Eric's giving it a 9 anyway because he can't not rate the episode.
It's
You
like
guys
4 out of 5. There are 4 lights.
Stop it. Stop it.
Julian, oh my God! On the 4th night of Hanukkah, will there be 4 lights?
No, there'll be 5.
Oh, because the initial one.
Mm-hmm.
God damn it! I was gonna make a joke. I don't know enough about Hanukkah.
There will actually be 5 lights. The Cardassian would be right in that situation. You could come over. Come over and see the 5 lights for yourself.
Yeah, I just wasn't thinking about it. I was like, oh yeah, they light the first one, but you light the one here, and then you light the rest.
That was like a gut punch to her joke.
It
really
was.
And
You out joked my joke.
It felt so good to ruin it.
You force joked me.
J Crab says you ruined the joke, you.
Okay.
All right. I
Jewish.
almost forgot to do it, but we are going to do our strange new loop right now. And this week, that is I'm on the wrong page. No, I'm on the right page. If you had a mirror universe counterpart, what do you think that they would look like and why? And Twitch, we'd like you to get it on this as well. So Hawk, we'll start with you.
Ooh, what would they look like or be like?
Be like and look like. Give me mirror universe Hawk. Would he be a raven or a crow?
Killy level boots. Definitely a wig.
I'm thinking serious. I spent my job is pretty much looking after people and that who can't look after themselves and that. So, that's, and I enjoy doing that. So I imagine my a mirror universe counterpart would pretty much just be all about himself in that, and stepping over everybody he could to get what he wanted in that. I also think he probably would have had a fuller head of hair.
I was gonna ask, would he have hair? Like,
Would it be colored or will it
no,
just
I just
be?
realized you could put batteries in here. It actually works.
Yeah.
Duh.
I didn't know. I got it from Wade's. I didn't know. I didn't check the back. I just thought it was neat.
And if it's the Bluetooth one, you can connect it to your phone.
Your phone, it's true. Before Brittany goes, we'll go to Twitch.
This is from 1994, not Bluetooth.
No
it's as old as me.
Oh wow, dating yourself. Rob Digi says lots of eyeshadow. Jay Crabstaff says I already have a beard, so no beard. Rob says he'd also add scars. Engineer 21 says they would be a rock climber with Vindicta level eyeshadow.
Yeah, I would go full Vindicta, like war paint. I think Mirror Universe me would have continued martial arts, so I would hope I'd be an eighth of Michelle Yeoh's power. At least. Oh my god, you know what? She would not pun at all. She would detest
evil
humor like that.
Would she hate puns so much that if she heard one, she would just kill the person on the spot?
I think so.
Using that martial arts.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
She'd be called the Punisher, ironically. Because if you separate the words, if you separate it, it's the pun is her.
Jay Krabs have said you would be Captain Kelly. So
me?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. Okay.
Eric.
Oh well, obviously I would wear tighter pants, in the Mirror Universe because that's not me. No, and to
skinny jeans.
And I was like, would you wear makeup? I would do that now. So I'm gonna go with the self-deprecating thing and say he would have been a successful actor.
Eric, don't say that about yourself. People watched our table read, and that's all the acting you need.
Exactly. For me, I would have hair, and I would have a man bun. I've always wanted a man bun, and that would just make me super douchey already.
Sometimes I put it on just for jokes.
I know. I would have a man bun, and one of my biggest pet peeves in Prime Universe me is I really don't like it when people aren't on time or say they're going to be somewhere on time and aren't. And it's like my biggest pet peeve in the world. So that would just be multiplied by 1,000. So if people showed up late, I would let them start to speak, but never let them get a word out. And then I would just kill them on the spot. That would be Mirror Universe me.
Julian's like, our other podcast would not exist.
Nor would ours.
Wait, hold on. There's a few times you had to run home to get your headphones.
But I showed up on time.
True.
Or Rob says, or maybe you would never be on time, Julian.
Yeah. I'm glad I only live 5 minutes away from you, so when I have to be over your house for some reason, I'm like, oh, see you in a few minutes.
Yeah, right.
Never late.
So, all right, that is our strange new loop for the week, and we did our usual subspace poll, and we just asked, mirror, mirror on the wall, was this the fairest discovery of them all? And this was the biggest blowout that we've had so far of the season. 94% said yes, and we only had 6% say no. So people really love this episode. I mean, who doesn't love going back to the Mirror Universe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. It was just fun to look at, and it's just a fun episode where you're like, forget everything that's happened this season, all the high stakes and the stress or whatever. This is its own thing right now. We're going to focus on that, have fun, and then get back to the bullshit.
Yeah.
Yep.
Get back to burn.
Before we close out, we do have to say, as always, a big thank you to Sam Dillard and Samo Studios for our Trektastic intro and outro music. And we have some news about our upcoming episodes. Who wants to read what we're doing for our main episode next week? Hit it.
Okay, I was making sure. Warp time, motherfucker. Next week, we'll be recording episode 15 of the show, which will be the first of 3 TNG movie deep dives, starting with First Contact with patron collective member Rob.
Yay!
Yeah, that's going to be a very good time. And we will do... So we have to figure out timing of this because we're also doing our Bride of Chaotica Drunk Space 9. So we might move up or down our recording of episode 15, depending on what we want to do, because that's going to be a blast. But either way, speaking of blast, she'll be back for that one. Yeah. So Before we go, a big thank you to our patron collective that supports this show and makes this all happen. Hawk, you did it, I think, 2 weeks ago. Eric, you don't read the thank yous very often. Read these thank yous.
I do sometimes. And Bradley Atia, did I say that right? Camelopardis.
Atia Camelopardis, I think.
Yeah. Brandon Feltzer, Mariah Gotsit, Mag. Hi, Mag, if you're in the chat.
Mag.
Jeff
Mag.
Reeve, Simon Stager, Mitch Thatcher, Rob Genstein, Tina Alexander, Joe Saporita, and no.
Next generation.
Who the fuck is Jen? It's Jen.
Jen. I don't know. And no Santos.
I think it's
Noe.
Noe.
It's Noe Santos.
No.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, like the name Noemi, but there's no
Or
A.
Zoe.
Noel.
Yeah.
No.
All right. Better luck next time.
No, I'm gonna do Genstein every time I say.
I
You
like.
know what's funny? I think that Erin missed this episode because she's been so anti-Georgiou, and this one showed that Georgiou's actually a kind-hearted person.
didn't wanna
So
own
she
up
was like,
Oh.
I'm sick. Just kidding. Erin's going to kill me because she missed seeing Ian, so I know it's real.
Yeah.
But we
Oh.
on to you, boo. She right here.
We real quick to answer that question, Joe. We are not doing generations because we did generations for a past episode.
We can't do that again.
We're not going through that again.
Nope.
That's going to do it for this bonus edition of A Strange New Pod. We'll see you next week. Live long and prosper, and long live the Empire.
Thanks for beaming into our podcast today. If you want to keep the hailing frequencies open, you can subscribe on Apple and Google Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify. Like what you hear? Put in a good word with Starfleet and leave us a 5-star review.